Pre-war musical instruments have a character that you just can't find in more refined modern instruments, and today I'm going to talk about some of the ones I own and how they stack up to modern instruments. So this Parlor guitar shows up on my channel a lot. It was built around the turn of the 20th century. I couldn't put an exact year on it, but it's a Marquette by Lyon and Healy, and Lyon and Healy are the same people who came out with Washburn originally, and the Washburns were actually the higher end line of guitars. I went to the crossroad, fell down on my knees. I went to the crossroad, fell down on my knees. So this guitar has a great blues sound. A lot of old blues records were made on guitars pretty similar to this. It projects really well, doesn't have quite as much sustain. One of the reasons for that is they're built differently. The bracing in these things is different. That contributes to a different sound. Now if you take a closer look at this thing, it's got a V-shaped neck, like a soft V neck, which is pretty common for guitars of that time. These things don't have truss rods in them, and that thick neck actually adds more stability to the guitar. It does have a kind of a different feel, like when you're playing it. Whoever owned this guitar before me busted it open and put an electric pickup inside of it. I probably wouldn't have done that. They also replaced the tuners, which I think was really a good idea because they sent me the originals. And yeah, I'd rather have the new ones. Now this thing has no intonation, and have a look at that action. So this thing is best for slide guitar, really. And these are light acoustic strings too. I would hate to see what heavier strings would do to this thing. So here's a comparison of this thing to a modern acoustic. The difference is pretty apparent. So here we have a banjo from around 1920 or so. It has no brand name on it and has a calfskin drum head on it. Now I had to put this thing on myself. I had to wet it and stretch it over it. Most banjos today have a plastic drum head. These things are really sensitive to humidity. If the humidity goes up, this thing gets loose and it just doesn't sound good. Now, this thing has celluloid tuners, which was the plastic they used a lot back then. It's in a faux wood pattern. It's got this stick down the back here. Most modern banjos, they'll have like a metal bar in the back where you can adjust the action on it. This thing is staying in place, can't really adjust it. These things have a much quieter, thinner sound than say a bluegrass banjo. A bluegrass banjo is going to be a lot more full and powerful sounding. And check out the action on that. So no Earl Scruggs on this thing. This thing is for playing clawhammer. Now if you want to compare that to a bluegrass style banjo, got one right here. Yeah, that's tuned enough. So you see this thing's much louder, kind of brighter, powerful sounding. So here we have an upright piano built by Baus in 1924. I was actually able to look up the serial number on this thing. I'm in the process of tuning and regulating it right now. Before I got a hold of it, it probably hadn't been touched in decades. This thing is pretty much the same as a piano that you would buy today. Pianos have been in their modern form since the late 1800s. Now the white keys on this piano are celluloid, they're not ivory. Just in case you were wondering how to spot ivory keys, I have one right here. Now if you look really closely at them, you'll see that the key top is in two separate parts. You'll see a line like right here separating the two parts. That's one way to tell. The second thing to look for on one of these is if you get a light source on it just right to where it's glaring off of it, and I don't know if I can do this on camera, you can see a sort of grain in it. It's almost like a wood grain. If you can spot those two things, then you probably have ivory keys on your piano. So there you have it. There's my collection of really old instruments. If you enjoy the content on this channel, please consider tipping me via PayPal or Patreon, link below. And please like, subscribe, and share.